Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Arena with Matt Boyce. We are RVN's only real estate focused show. This market is a battle. We want to help you win and fight that battle by bringing on experts from all around the region in order to give you guidance on what's happening right now, and again, what strategy you can have in order to win those houses, whether you're buying or selling. Today, I'm really excited because recently we've had some South Jersey real estate agents on board, and they've given us an idea of what's happening around this market. But today, I'm bringing on John Terebey. John Terebey's with the Terebey relocation team. And if you ever had that argument, if Central Jersey exists, I think he would like to take on that argument because that's the market he's in every single day. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for being on. So, John, I was just really excited to bring you on because for those of you that don't know John has a unique perspective. John runs a team. He's been doing this for well over a decade, even though kind of looks a little young. Don't let that fool you. Over a decade, runs a team. He uses technology in order to leverage what he does to educate his buyers, his sellers, and it's been working out very, very well. I think he's going to give us a unique perspective, not only on his market, but he's an Airbnb specialist, an investment specialist, so he really has the full spectrum covered. So John, I just want to get right into it. A lot of people are afraid right now. There's a lot of fear in the market. So there's a word that we keep hearing, and that's shift. So the market's shifting. Well, I don't really even know what that means, right? So I guess if you could tell us, what's your definition of this word shift that you're hearing, and what's going on in your neck of the woods? What's going on in Central Jersey?
So basically what I think is happening at the moment is that people are just being a little bit more cognizant and a little bit more trigger shy. Because what happens is they hear all of these different stories from their friends saying, hey, rates are up, prices are going to come down, and nobody knows what to do with it. It's just like with Tesla. Everybody's like, oh my God, Tesla's all, is all like future valuation, and like they're going to change the world, et cetera. And then it's like, oh, do I buy? Do I not buy? But nobody actually did any research. So that's what's happened. What happens so much with the buyers is like, oh, well, my friend's uncle's great aunt's grandmother told me I shouldn't buy right now. and I'm like, okay, well, why is that? And when you start to break down the reason why they're a little bit more apprehensive, because before, if you look like back in 2020, 21, when we just started getting out of COVID, basically what happened was like it was very challenging to get a house. A lot of demand, very little supply. There's still very little supply, but now people are like, in a very low interest rate environment, people are buying just because they didn't want rates to go up. And they were just doing anything they could to get into places, and they were rushing out of New York City. Whereas now people are a little bit more stable, they know what's going on, so they have a little bit more time to think. But what I always tell everybody is, look, irregardless of when you buy, like if you bought in, let's say, 2006 or 2007, which would have been the peak of the last, before the last financial recession. If you sold your house in 21, you didn't lose money, like you actually did really, really well. So it's about time in the market rather than timing the market. You're not going to be able to.
And I have to tell you, I have a personal experience with that because I bought my first house in 2006. It's my first house. I was supposed to buy. They told you, graduate college, get a job, buy a house. And I did that at the absolute peak of the market. And then for about 10 years after that, I kicked myself and I kept telling everyone how much money I've lost, quote unquote. And guess what? I didn't lose. I sold my house last year. This is my first house. This is a townhouse. And I made money because I stayed into it. So I guess you don't lose until you actually sell.
Yeah, 100%. They're all paper losses. Right. So it's just like the stock market. If you continue to buy and you never sold anything, then you've made money throughout the years. And then you have to be a little bit more cognizant when you're starting to get ready to either retire or do something like that. But if you know you're going to move or you're there might be a job relocation, et cetera, then maybe you want to be a little bit more cognizant, but there's inefficiencies in every market. So there's really good values, so you probably shouldn't buy the highest price per square foot in a given area. You can find value in any market. It's just being on top of the market, understanding what's going on, having somebody that can represent you and know the ins and outs and getting you into places that may not be on the market, and just a seller just would prefer to not have 1,000 people through their front door. They only want maybe 1 or 2. There's value there, but there's so many people now that are just going online and they're calling an agent on Zillow, and that agent just doesn't really know the market. They don't know what's happening, and they're just trying to get you into a house immediately. And I think that's where people are running into issues. They're paying these crazy prices. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what your average is, average days on market, average list to sale price ratio, et cetera. It's important to have a pulse on the market.
Well, and the pulse right now, there seems to be a lot of fear and a lot of talk of recession. I know that rates have been rising, right? So it seems, to your point, everyone's kind of taking a step back. They're looking around. They're trying to decide what they want to do. So what would your advice be? And I know you get this question every day. If I'm a seller and I know I'm sitting on a ton of equity, I would love to then leverage that equity and buy something else. Maybe buy the quote unquote dream home, or use it for an investment or whatever it is. What do you say to sellers that are apprehensive, and especially buyers who are thinking, oh, my grandmother told me, or my friend's cousin's friend who, whatever, they bought a house 10 years ago, they're giving me advice. What do you say to people that are apprehensive getting into the market?
Well, there's always, as long as you have a good product, so what you see is not selling at the moment is homes that need a lot of work, because a lot of work takes cash. So, and you think about it, let's say you could buy a house that's completely done for $700,000, or you could buy a house that needs $100,000 worth of updates for $600K. Well, if you think about it, if you could finance a $700,000 house, that's $140K down, okay? Versus financing the $600,000 house, it's $120,000 down, but you have $100K out of your pocket. So I think people are a lot more cognizant with how much money they have to put in. I actually think HGTV made it a little bit challenging for people, because now they want a show-ready house. They're like, oh my God, everything needs to be taken care of. I need my kitchens, I need my bathrooms, and it's not necessarily the case. Because I think you can live with some of this stuff for a little bit of time. But I think they're spoiled. They've seen it online, now they want it in their home.
Well, you might be a part of that problem, because you were on HGTV.
I was. Yes, I may be a part of that problem. But I'm trying to help people think a little bit outside the box.
Yeah.
So in terms of thinking about putting your house on the market, there's going to be a buyer for your product. As long as you've got, look, you can't be, in the middle of nowhere. And there still would be a buyer for your house. It's going to take a little bit longer to find that buyer. But the houses that are a little bit more mainstream, you just need to be more cognizant of price. Look, if rates are coming up and buyers are okay with waiting a little bit of time to understand what's going on in the market, but you still want to sell, that doesn't mean you need to, it's a fire sale, but you just need to price into market adjustment. And it will move. I just had a listing that I just put up. Rates have gone, so you think about it, rates were what, sub 3, February.
They were low, and now they're not so low.
Yeah.
That's how I like to phrase it.
Yeah, but they were a lot lower. I mean,
Right.
they've gone up, and I don't even know whether it's happened historically speaking, that rates have jumped up this quickly. But I just had a $700,000, I listed it for $675. There were 2 other agents that came in saying that it should be listed around $650. And I was like, look, I know this product is going to sell. It had a really nice lot. It was gorgeous on the inside. Ended up selling in a weekend. Rates were still higher than what they were before, but if that product is for a certain person, they're not going to let it go. It's like saying that you have the ability to buy a super rare Ferrari, but you don't have the cash at the moment to purchase it. Are you going to pass up that opportunity knowing that that's going to go up 3x in value? No, of course not. You're going to figure out how to make it happen. So if it's your dream home, you're going to find a way to put that deal together.
You bring up a really good point, and this is something we were talking before the show. We went live. So really, there seems like you really have 2 options when you're looking to buy a house. And understanding financing, I think a big misconception is you need 20% down.
I totally agree.
So I think still everybody in their mind, at least their goal, even if they know there's other options, they want to put 20% down because that's the thing you're supposed to do. But if you have a $700,000 house, and right now loan limits, to get a conventional loan, a loan that's insured by the government, going to get you the best rates, right now you can get a loan for $715,000. A lot of people don't realize that, and even higher in certain areas, especially as you go into North Jersey. So what is your advice when someone looks at you and goes, listen, that $700,000 house, I would love to have it. I don't have 20% down, which is 140 grand. But on the other hand, we make pretty good money and we can afford the payment. What do we do? What do you tell people?
So I am actually a huge advocate of putting less money down because I think liquid cash is the hardest thing to come by. Look, unless your income's like, $2, $3, $4 million, and even then, like generally your spending has met up. You've got business expenses, you're traveling, et cetera. Like your lifestyle typically correlates with your income, generally speaking.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden, the better I do, the more boxes from Amazon are on my porch. You always level up, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's so challenging. You think about it, like majority of like people that are going to be, in a position to buy a house, let's say the average household income is going to be anywhere between like, let's say 80 to maybe $200,000. Okay. So let's just use, 120 should be somewhere in the middle. If you think about it, that's $10,000 gross every single month. So they're probably taking home after taxes, my guess is going to be somewhere in the range of like $7,000-8,000. So from there, then you have your living expenses, you've got grocery shopping, like that starts to really whittle down. So it's very challenging to start saving up these down payments. But if you think about it, if you got in the market, you're able to buy. So like I bought my shore house, my first Airbnb. I bought that 10% down. I bought that house for $400,000, 10% down. It was like $40,000 out of my pocket, all right? But that house is now doubled in value. So if I didn't buy that because I was like, I need to wait for 20% down, I want my payments to be lower, I missed all of the appreciation. I missed all of the rental. So like there's an opportunity cost. And I'm actually, even if I do have the money, I'm still gonna find a way to leverage the asset because it's performing debt. So like that is the best debt that you can have. It's not like I went out and financed a couch. Like that's a poor decision because your couch doesn't give you any tangible value back. At the end of every year, it's not printing out some money and saying, "Here, John, thank you so much for laying on me."
It's not an asset.
Yeah, of course not.
Right.
It is an asset, but it's not a performing asset. Like the couch is valuable, so it is technically an asset that you could sell, but like it's going to depreciate.
Depreciating asset.
Yeah. So like what I want everything to do is like when I spend my money is things that are going to perform for me. And I think so many people are scared of debt. They look at that number and they're like, oh my God, I need to steer away from that. My parents told me not to have debt. And that's a massive fear that I think people need to overcome. I had like my best friend, I convinced him to buy a house. It was so funny. One of my partners, he goes in and he goes, look, I want you, it was like over $2,000 we missed out on this house. Or I think they were asking like $230,000. We offered him $220,000, and the lady was like, "Look, I'll take $227,000." My buddy's like, "Dude, I'm not going above $225,000." It's like you're an idiot. Like that makes absolutely no sense. And he was just like, "No, like I'm not going over $225,000." So I called my best friend. I said, "Look, I've been doing this. I know it's going to work. It's going to be an absolute home run. Just trust me." He was living at his parents' house with his fiance. It's like, just move out. So I was like, "Trust me. I'm going to get you in contact." They did they put 3% down actually. They financed back in their closing costs. This was pre-COVID, all right? So he came in, he ended up buying the house, trusted me, moved in. He wasn't ready, but he did it. They were able to scrap it all together. That house he just sold 3 years later, he made an absolute killing on it. And if he kept it, it still would have been a great rental. So he lived in there for a little bit. They ended up moving to another place for a short period of time, which then they turned into a rental. But he's been able to build a rental category or a rental portfolio because once he sold that, he was able to buy other assets.
So, and that's a great segue. When we come back from the break, we're going to be going into Airbnbs. A lot of people want to get into investing. Airbnb is an amazing angle to go with in order to really leverage your investment.
Love Airbnb.
We'll get into it right after this.
Aloha, Joe Silva here with Kukua Technologies. I'm excited to see you on Tuesdays on Morning Coffee for our tech tips.
Let's face it, lawyers get a bad rap. I'm Erin Brucey, host of Legal Breakdown, where we dissect legal topics for the everyday viewer, with a mix of interesting guests to talk about current events and hot legal topics. Let's work together to make the law accessible and relevant to everyone. Catch us every week on RVN Television.
A stroke can be easy to detect. A loved one can't speak, perhaps they can't move. But there's another sign of a stroke that many of us can't see. It's called spatial neglect, and it can occur during or after a stroke, causing distorted visual movements. Fortunately, there's a solution by using optical prism technology during rehabilitation. If you or a loved one have experienced a stroke, ask your doctor about spatial neglect. Spatial neglect. See the whole picture at KesslerFoundation.org.
Hi, welcome back everyone to the Arena with Matt Boyce. Again, we are RVN's only real estate specific show. Today we have John Terebey from the Terebey relocation team from Central New Jersey. John, welcome back. So John and I were just discussing a lot of things, market update, what's going on in his neck of the woods, but we started talking about investments. And I don't know, but if you know, looking at John, he's 28 years old. John's been doing this over a decade. And I mean, I wasn't put together at 28. I don't even know what I was doing. But John, I think a lot of people, maybe a little younger, they don't have a family yet. They're thinking, what, I want to invest. I know real estate is a great place to invest my money. Maybe they've set aside some they've saved. They have the ability of putting some money down. What's your advice? Should they just wait to buy that big house? Or where did you start personally, and what do you say to, again, a younger buyer that's looking to invest?
So I actually think the opposite should be done. Because the problem is if you buy that dream house, like when you're younger, like between the ages of, let's say, 18 to probably 30, depending. I mean, some people are getting married a little bit earlier, et cetera. But that is when you have the least amount of expenses. So if you look at it from like purely a debt to income ratio, you're making any sort of money, and you have practically no debt. Maybe you have student loans or things like that. But when you start adding debt onto your balance sheet, all right? So you buy that dream house. Let's say that dream house costs you $2,500, $3,000. Well, now think about it. When you go to buy your investment property, that is actually going to affect your ability to approve for a larger asset. So yeah, you can use the rental value of that asset, but let's say you're going to Airbnb a house. They're going to just take market rent of a longer term rental. So look, if you're really trying to fudge the numbers a little bit because the Airbnb is going to do really well, you need a good DTI in order to afford a house. So the way I started was I got into long-term rentals around the college. So I've got 10 houses now. So I started off and I invested heavily in cash flow, because the way I think about it, there's two different ways of investing. You either invest in cash flow or you invest in appreciation. But I didn't have time to wait for something to appreciate. So I couldn't buy something in Hoboken, wait 10 years, now I made $1 million.
So basically you weren't focusing on flipping homes and trying to get that quick cash in order to buy the next one and the next one.
No, absolutely not. Because the good thing was I was doing good at my job. So every dollar I was making, maybe not every dollar, I still enjoy myself, but everything that I could save, I put toward buying a home. And it was all cash flow, because you could take that money and push it through. I've never taken a dividend from my rental portfolio, okay? The one Airbnb that I own myself, that'll pay my assets, so my car, my mortgage, and then I've got a boat, so it pays that. Two of them will pay my assets, so then it makes all of my income disposable. So I could use that to buy other houses, because everything I'm making is disposable income.
And John said that pretty quick, but I want everyone to just take a step back and listen to what he just said. John, he's buying assets that are cash flowing his luxury items. So John didn't get the nice car. He didn't get the boat until he had other things, other assets that were paying for those things.
Well, think about it. It wasn't until last year that I was driving a Jeep. And a Jeep's a perfectly great car, but my main focus, and the reason why I bought it, was because it was a very low payment. Now I got something a little bit nicer, but that's only because it's offset by something else that I own. So what I tell everybody, and this is what I'm trying to gear at least my generation to do, or all of my friends. I'm talking to everybody I possibly can. Irregardless, like they could be in North Carolina, and look, I'm not licensed in North Carolina, but I just think people need to be a little bit more cognizant with what they could do with their time. You know, because it's like, hey, I can either go out and spend money maybe on a table, or go spend money with my friends on a weekend. Like yeah, that's fun. But if you can position yourself and you can understand, hey, look, I'm going to make this investment now. There might be a little bit of time that I put into managing the property and things like that. But over a longer period of time, it's going to put me in a really good position. Like I think that's super important.
Well, and you touched on it. So let's say somebody's watching this and they're in New Jersey, right? And they're looking around going, well, where am I going to buy an Airbnb? If I go down to the Jersey Shore, the prices are outrageous.
Yeah.
So do they need to, if you're living in a certain area, do you need to just buy right there, or can you go other places?
Oh, you can go anywhere. Like I just bought a house in Tampa. And so I'm managing Tampa from New Jersey. So I've got a great cleaning crew down there. I've got a phenomenal handyman. And then I've got friends in the area. Like I just had a friend stop by my house, move all the furniture inside because the hurricane's obviously coming. So like it's about having really great networks in every market you're in. Like that's super important. So I go out of my way to make sure that happens. But I think the other thing too is like you don't have to necessarily jump directly to an Airbnb. Like I invested in cash flow, which allowed me to take risk with the Airbnb. So like I knew when I bought the house in Tampa, which was the largest home that I had purchased. So that's a risk. Think about it. If you've got a $3,500 or $4,000 mortgage, that's not going away for 30 years. So like every single month you're expected to pay the bank. You're not going to say, hey John, you didn't rent it last month, so take the month off. No, they're going to expect to be paid. So with all of my other assets that are cash flowing, that if you've got a hiccup in a month, your other long-term rentals will offset that cost.
Vacancy factor, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I actually think it's smart if people jump into, if they jump into like an apartment, if they don't have a lot of time, they're working 80, 90 hours a week, and I don't know, let's say they're working for a bank, because I know banks will run you ragged. Like you can invest in an apartment, you can still have appreciation. Maybe you're not cash flowing as much, but if you don't have to do anything, it operates like a bond.
So let me ask you a question. So again, if somebody was looking to get into investing and they just wanted to weigh their options, is that something you would do where you could show them long-term rentals versus Airbnbs in different markets and they could decide? And also, I know that aren't there companies that could help you manage those Airbnbs, help you manage that portfolio?
Yeah, so look, with money you can get people to do anything you want, but like I'm a big cognizant of like watching my bottom line. Because you can get out. Like, yeah, that Airbnb was great, but if you're making the same amount as an apartment where you didn't need a manager, then like maybe that apartment was a really good opportunity. So like what I generally do is I'll sit down and I'll talk to people. It's like almost like I'm a financial advisor, where I walk in and I'm like, hey, what are you looking to accomplish? And what does your life look like? And when I do that, then I'm like, hey, look, I really think this is a better idea. And once you get used to it, then let's do something else. But with Airbnb, like I think it's great. Like I think the unique part of Airbnb is you can buy places which did not typically cash flow. Okay, so like Tampa, the house I bought in Tampa was not typically going to be a cash flowing asset. But because Airbnb shortened the timeline, so now I have a lot of 2 to 5 day rentals. All right, so you're cash flowing on the asset actually better than I have on my longer term rentals, and it's in an area that appreciates really well. And the other thing that I really like about Airbnb, if you think about it, if you go to Tampa, are you going to spend the next 5 days in my house?
We're not.
Of course not.
No.
You're going to go out, you're going to golf, you're going to experience the incredible restaurants, the nightlife, go to the beach. Like you're going to spend almost no time at my house. So the wear and tear is less. And then when somebody comes in and they check in and there's an issue with your property, they're generally not giving you a hard time because they're there for such a short period of time that it doesn't actually affect their stay. As long as you can deliver on the necessities, so like, the pillow's not a block of wood. You don't have dirty sheets. It's pretty clean. People will oversee the small things if the water's broken or like the dishwasher's broken. Like we just had that. The dishwasher was broken. They just did the dishes themselves. Yeah, it's not a big deal. Whereas
Again, they're
before,
probably eating out every night.
Of course.
They have a little bit of dishes.
Exactly. Whereas with your long term, like the ones I had around the college, it's like, hey, my light bulb's out. I'm like, all right, we'll go to Home Depot and change the light bulb. Yeah, you know? So like everything's gonna be a little bit different, but I think you need to understand exactly what you're looking to accomplish. So many people, just like the guy that, asked your aunts, uncles, grandma, like, hey, how's the market doing? Same thing with investing. People say, hey, I like the idea of putting my money into real estate.
Well, and that's also, it's a great point too, because up until recently, Airbnb didn't exist. VRBO, all these different vacation rentals, they were just a pipe dream, but with the internet, with phones, with the ease of technology. Now these things are cash flowing where, a house down the shore, if you had to rent it for a month at a time or pay a realtor in order to rent it for you, it just kind of eats into your bottom line. So if you wanted to look into, again, just knowing what your options are. It doesn't mean that by talking to a guy like John, all of a sudden now you're obligated to spend tens of thousands of dollars. I think really knowing the numbers is so key.
Knowing the numbers and just educating yourself.
And just educating. So, and then in different markets, again, maybe you want to go to the Poconos, down the shore, you want to go to Florida, you want to go to the Carolinas, Nashville. There's so many other places that you can invest in Airbnb. And someone like John, who he's not just, this is why I wanted to have John on today, guys, because John's not just a real estate agent talking theoretical knowledge to you. Oh, well, I'm pretty sure this would cash flow, or I'm pretty sure this is a good investment. Here's someone that invests himself, has Airbnbs, has long-term investments, has properties, and really is the boots on the ground in order to show you what's going on in each market and then be able to advise you the way he would advise himself.
I think that's important. I literally just did an open house in an area that I invest, and the lady came in with her client. And was like, well, you can put a bedroom here, you can put a bedroom here, and there wasn't actually going to be a family room or a living room or anywhere for these kids to hang out. And it's like, one, nobody would ever rent that house. Two, the township would never allow it. So like, they just don't know what they're talking about. Same thing as like in West Windsor, my core market. The thing is, when you go online, you say, hey, I want to go see this house right away. You don't have any insight in the local market. So here's a really good example. There was a house that was just purchased from somebody, I don't know who the agent was, to be honest with you, but he called me to think about listing it. Because I didn't realize when I bought the house, I'm down range of a gun range in West Windsor. There's a gun range there. You wouldn't think about it, but there is. But it's only active, I think it's like 2 or 3 days a week. So think about it. If you came to the open house when the gun range was not there,
you have no idea.
Wasn't firing, and then let's say it was in the heart of winter, that's when you bought your house. Now spring comes around, and now you have people loading up 50 caliber rifles at the gun range, and you're directly downrange. I mean, it's like a gun's firing in your backyard. He was like, this is the worst thing, I need to move X, Y, and Z. But if you had somebody that knew the market, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. So that really just again, knowing who we're going to be working with, building a team around you with whatever you want to do, whether you want to buy your first house, whether you want to treat that kind of as an investment to flip and be able to then leapfrog to a bigger house until eventually you have a dream home, and maybe at the same time developing a portfolio. This is someone that I wanted to bring on because, again, he's going to help you win this market and navigate you. So, John, thanks so much for coming on today.
Oh, I appreciate you having me.
And if you want to get in touch with John Terebey, what is the best way? First of all, what's your Instagram? And then what's a good email for you?
So Instagram's just my name, John Terebey. Super easy.
You were lucky.
Yeah,
you got it
tell me
early.
about it. Well, I guess I got a pretty unique name. Then my email is john.terebey@gmail.com.
Perfect. Guys, thanks so much. Next week we'll be back, again, bringing you experts to help you fight and win this market. You have a great week.